The Ontario government has announced their timeline to be done with pretty much all COVID-19 restrictions. Lots of conversation about it, lots of opinions on it. What do you think about it? I'll tell you what I think about it. And my first thought, my sort of top line response to it all, is that it is at least good news that they are setting these timelines, these targets, even if they do couch them all with, well, if things change, we can move them around and so forth. We're all familiar with the moving of the goalpost. But I think it sends a good signal that they are saying to people, look, all this stuff, it's gonna be gone sometime and sometime soon. Because we all know there are voices out there who would like to keep these things in place pretty much forever. We've all seen those opinion columns saying, we're gonna have to be masked for years and so forth. And those people clearly want that, and there are some people who want that. And they should be allowed to do that if they want to stay in masks for years, but the rules have to change to allow everyone else to be able to make up their decisions for themselves. So here's the substance of Ontario's announcement. They have said that pretty much effectively immediately, all capacity restrictions are done. Now that's great news, but I think in some respects it's bigger news than the government's making it out to be. Now, I heard from Chef Michael Hunter recently. I recorded a podcast episode with him where he was talking about the fact that his popular restaurant in downtown Toronto, it's called Antler Bar, it seats about 45 people, but because of Ontario government rules that were limiting him to 50%, he could only have 22 people there. I mean, that's not a lot of diners for a place where, I guess on busy days, he could get people in there fully. He could get 45 people in there, and of course he deserves to be able to do that, and it's good that the rules are changing for him. But then when you look at a whole lot of other places, gyms for instance, yeah, I guess at peak time they maybe sometimes get close to their capacity, but generally most of the time they were not at their previous capacity anyway. So the fact that the capacity limits are being further lifted, it is not the great expansion, the sort of big news announcement that I think some news stories would have you believe. The more substantive stuff that the government has announced, that's not going to come into place for a couple of months. January 17th is the day that they say they're actually going to begin rolling back the controversial domestic vaccine passports. Really interesting. I made the point a while ago when it was first announced and first introduced that Doug Ford, who didn't want it originally, he said it would create a split society. Oh, and by the way, he was right about that. And that's why he didn't want to do it. Well, he went ahead and did it anyway. And then he said it's not going to be in place for a day longer than it needs to be. And we said, well, okay, well, what does that mean? Which day is the day it doesn't need to be in place? And he would not say. And I was writing about the fact, hold on, you need sunset clauses, you need exit clauses for this sort of thing. Why aren't you setting a date where you're at least hoping it's the day you will be lifted? Well, they've put that in place now, January 17th. So whatever you think, whether it should be sooner or that the passports should have never been in place in the first place, at least you have this day to try and hold him to now, and the pressure is on him. And also those folks who would like to think that these passports will be in place for the rest of our lives, well, they've been now served notice that the narrative, that the conversation is not trending in their direction, in their favor. When it comes to masks, masks will not be lifted throughout Ontario until March 28th of 2022. That is the earliest time. There's a lot of different approaches to masks going on across the world right now. In the UK, it's just not happening at all. No mask mandates. In fact, all across Europe, there are a number of countries, Finland, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, they don't have any mask rules. And places that do, Germany, France, they have other little revisions where, for instance, kids in low-risk school areas, they're not wearing masks. A lot of exemptions that just show that Ontario and other provinces, we have really strict mask rules. In the United States, most states do not have mask rules. Only 10 of them have mask mandates. Most of them are states with smaller populations. California and New York, yes, they have mask mandates, but vaccinated people are exempt, and most people are vaccinated. So most people are not under that mask mandate. So it's kind of interesting that Ontario has the vaccine passport, which many places don't have, and has mandatory indoor masking, even in those vaccine passport situations. So we actually have the most severe of all worlds in Ontario, and those mask mandate rules not going away until March 28th. I think the mask rules should definitely go away much, much sooner. And I think because we've seen elementary age kids not wearing masks in the school system in various places around the Western world, including in BC for much of the time, although they've recently changed that, I think it's a clear sign that we should be able to take the masks offer kids ASAP, and bottom line, make masks a choice for people. So there's the situation in Ontario, the announcement. We'll see if they actually go ahead with those dates. Maybe they'll push them back. Maybe they'll move them forward, but it's a good thing we're talking about the dates now. And it's a good thing that we are hopefully moving this direction, and people got to keep pushing.